Hey there, nerds! Jimmy Palmquist here with another episode of Two Nerdy Dads, and as always with me, Jason Applegates. Hey, Jason.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Now, you may notice that we're going live from inside a car. Being a true dad, I just dropped my son off at ninja class. What I call ninja class is actually parkour class. Both pretty cool. But so I apologize. I'm in the car. Jason is in the comforts of his own home, so we still have some normalcy going on.
But this is the sacrifices that we make to bring you this podcast. Anytime, anywhere, on the move, parkour. This podcast is parkour.
We're there for you.
That's right.
Sadly, every time I think of parkour, I think of that episode of The Office where Michael and Dwight are like going around the office doing some lame parkour. It's like, wow.
Yeah, there was one of my theater students would say that every time he would go up onto the stage. It was always a fairly miserable attempt to like leap onto the stage, and he would just kind of like roll, like do a really sad ninja roll the rest of the way. It was quite a sight.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Anywho, Jason, what do we have on the docket today?
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about the Supergirl premiere that came out on Monday night. We've got to talk about that Star Wars trailer, although, you know, it's been out for a while now. We haven't broadcast since it came out. And we'll talk a little bit about the new season of Walking Dead. And then finally, we're going to finish up with talking about our favorite season, for nerds at least, and that's Halloween. Where everybody cosplays for a night, and you know, some recommendations we might have, some memories of Halloween that we might have. Certainly, I want to hear, you know, about your costumes and what's going on with your family, and I'll share some from mine. So that's what's on the docket today.
Very cool. Well, let's get started with Supergirl.
Yeah, let's start it. Let's start right there. Now, I was hesitant, I guess is the best word, about the series, like a lot of people were when I saw that it was coming out, particularly the first trailer. A lot of people got a lot of bad, and there were people that, you know, criticized it for you know, well, it had just come out, I think, after the SNL bit about the Black Widow movie that was the satire about, you know, relationship problems and you know, it focused on, you know, just sort of stereotypical female audience interests.
Yeah.
And so that trailer really kind of, I think, focused on that. I feel, thankfully, it was a misrepresentation of what I thought was a pretty strong episode. And while I've always admitted that I'm not the biggest fan of Arrow or Flash, you know, the CW series, I feel like, you know, I do like those series. Okay. I'm not exactly their demographic, I don't feel, but I liked Supergirl better. I thought it was well written. I thought that it actually had, you know, a positive message about, you know, female heroes, period, and just female characters even in general. I thought that I guess the best critique that I can give it was that my daughter, after she watched it, was running around the house pretending to be Supergirl. And that was a really cool moment, and thought that was really, she's always liked superheroes, and has loved Batgirl and Supergirl and all of them, but she really enjoyed it. And there was no part of it that I was like, oh, geez, you know, watch the old Supergirl movie from 1980, whatever. And there are some moments in there.
Where'd you find it? Where'd you find it?
I found it on Netflix. I did the old hard disk order on that baby, where they sent you the DVD.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a summer viewing, and wow, we did not even finish it. It was so bad that, you know, it was one of those, you kind of, it was like when you watched, at least when I watched Masters of the Universe with the kids, you know, those cartoons, which, you know, were a huge part of my childhood. And the whole time I'm going, man, I did not realize how bad this cartoon is. But I still, you know, toughed through it, and it was still fun. Another comparison would be when I watched Batman and Robin with Cade and, you know, struggled through the bat nipples and the rest, you know, Bane and Poison Ivy and all of that, but just, you know, toughed it out. This was not the case. I really enjoyed Supergirl. I thought that the writing, like I said, was good, and I particularly enjoyed the performance of Supergirl. I'm looking up the name right now. Cast, there it is. She was in Glee, I guess, which I was never a huge fan of. Melissa, is it Benoist? Is that how you pronounce her last name? I hope.
Sure.
I've only seen it in print. Yeah, I've only seen it in print. She's Kara Danvers, Supergirl. I thought she was fantastic. I thought she was charming. She was relatable. I thought she was cute without being cutesy. You know, to where you're just like, oh, come on. But she was a very likable character. Very much, you know, Clark Kent, like, you know, where you're like, she's a very likable character and you root for her. I thought it was kind of funny that they never mentioned Superman by name. They talk about him in all other ways, like the Man in Blue and James Olsen, not Jimmy Olsen, you know, talks about his big, you know, his buddy, you know, things like that. But they never actually uttered the name. And I, you know, just as a side note, I was curious, is that because of copyright? You know, then they'd have to pay the creators of Superman for using his name, or was it just a sort of like, we're going to, you know, it was part of the comedy of them just sort of, you know, kind of beating around the bush or whatever, dancing around the, you know, the reference to that character. And they also showed like his arm or his cape or, you know, him as a baby, but never, you know, any version of Superman to tie it directly to the movie or to any other version like Smallville or anything else. So I wondered about, you know, what was the purpose behind that. But back to the performances, I really enjoyed Melissa. I thought she did a fantastic job. I thought she was great as Supergirl too. And I think what they're doing with the character, with having her sort of be excited to jump into this role as hero and be the Superman for this, I think it's called Nation City or National City, the fictional city that she lives in. But she's new at it, and she's, you know, there's some self-doubt there as to whether she can, you know, fill those shoes or whether she's cut out for this and is this her purpose and stuff. I think makes for some interesting storytelling. The one sort of hokey aspect to it that I was kind of like, you know, this is sort of CW, you know, this is kind of the cheesiness that maybe people were, you know, struggling with, was that her sister, who was the part of the Danvers family, which is the Kent family for Supergirl, is like an agent of the DOE, which I'm not certain what that stands for. I'm sure it's actually from DC Comics, and I just don't know the reference. But you know, secretly and oh my gosh, she, you know, you betrayed me, and you know, how could you keep this a secret from me? That whole storyline, and then of course she comes around to supporting her sister, and you know, the rivalry between the two of them that Kara was never aware of, you know, that I was jealous of you, and it just was it was a little bit trite, but I still thought it was okay, and it didn't overtake anything. I love James Olsen, that he's being portrayed by an African American character. I think it's fantastic. I think that it's I think he's huge. If there's any you know, complaint that I have as far as like authenticity, is that dude is a big dude, and he is cut, and he looks like he could be Superman himself. And I always think of James Olsen or Jimmy Olsen as you know, the pal, you know, the little guy, and he is not. And so, but I thought he was cool. And the other thing that I really like about it is that in the first episode, like all the characters that are her sort of friend characters know who she is and know that she's Supergirl. James Olsen knows it from the beginning, and it's sort of he's set up as her sort of love interest. And then her other love interest, which is, again, is this sort of typical storytelling, sure, but it works. And that is, I don't know the character's name, but it's her reporter friend who writes for some sort of like website or something. Imagine that. And he crushes on her, and of course she's sort of oblivious to it. So there's that storyline. But she tells him like right from the start because she just wanted somebody to know and be excited about it for her. So she just tells him, and he doesn't believe her, and then she jumps off the building and shows him. And I thought, well, that's cool, because what you would think would happen is they would fall into that whole secret identity storyline of like, oh, I'm struggling with keeping this a secret. Lois can't know that I'm really Superman, and that whole thing. And it was like good that they didn't care about that. The only person who you could see that working with is her boss, who is, of course, Callista Flockhart plays Cat Grant, who's the the owner of the company that she works for, and which owns a bunch of things, including a news reporting agency. So, and her character, I guess a lot of people were giving her flack, and I think that probably stems mostly from the fact that she's just kind of jumped the shark a little bit, or people feel like she's trying to resurrect something. But I actually thought she was kind of an entertaining character. One of my favorite lines is like Kara comes in and is saying, why do we call her Supergirl? Why not Superwoman? And Callista Flockhart's character says, what's wrong with being a girl? I'm a girl, and I'm powerful, and I'm sexy, and she lists all these things that she is. And she's like, and that's part of being a girl. What's wrong with that? And I thought, you know what? That's kind of true. Like that whole, like, girl power, that girl shouldn't be a demeaning word. It can be an empowering one. So I thought it was kind of an interesting and nice little moment. The fights were more than I expected. The action in it was pretty good. I thought that was entertaining, and the special effects were at a solid level. I didn't feel like, this is kind of cheap or fake or anything like that. But I wasn't really looking at it for that. I wasn't really watching it for that. I was more watching it for, is this going to have a story? Am I interested in these characters? Is it fun? Or is it going to be teeny bop drama? Like some of I keep like ragging on the CW, but that's what that is. It's for people that are still teenagers or in their early 20s. And I felt like this is for those people too, but it offered other things as well. And I was glad that it was family friendly, that my kids could watch it, and there was no big deal with it, which I thought was really cool. So we plan on continuing to watch it. I think after about 4 or 5 episodes in, I'll probably write an article, kind of responding to what I think about the entire season. There's already some name drops. Dean Cain was in it from Lois and Clark. He plays he's just like, there was no acting. He was just on screen as her father, the adoptive father, Danvers, Mr. Danvers. So that was kind of cool to see him. And then character-wise, there's a Hank Henshaw who becomes the cyborg Superman in the comics. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens in the in this television series or not. So that's my very long, sorry, I talked the entire time, take on Supergirl, but I'm pretty excited. I'm looking forward to some more episodes.
That's very cool. I didn't get a chance to see it yet, but Facebook, my Facebook lit up, and most people seem to enjoy it. A couple people hated it, which surprised me. I know when we talked about the trailer previews earlier, we were both kind of excited to see it, which I think kind of surprised us. I'm curious, like you mentioned, where the line is towards rights. Like, what do they have the rights for? So if they can do a cyborg Superman, interesting. But if they can't show any real version of Superman or mention Superman, interesting. So where is that line? And I'm not, like you said, I'm not saying they're doing cyborg Superman.
Right.
But where exactly is that line? Because, I mean, obviously Supergirl's in her own universe as far as she doesn't have to be part of Superman. But there's also a lot of crossover. How are they going to do that, if they're going to do that? And that's one of the weird things that the WB in DC Comics, Warner Brothers and DC Comics is set up, is they have their movies, and their movies are one thing, and then they have their TV shows on different networks. Like I think this one's CBS, which is also kind of weird to me. And they don't mingle, they don't interact, they have nothing to do with each other. But I know when I think it was Arrow was trying to do the Suicide Squad, they wanted to do why did I just forget her name?
Harley Quinn?
Yes, they tried to add Harley Quinn, and Warner Brothers was like, absolutely not. No, we have plans for her, and that obviously came to the real Suicide Squad, the movie. So it was like, I'm very curious what the rights are with DC and Warner Brothers and how they're doling them out.
Yeah, this one doesn't seem to, because it's on CBS. I wonder if it's in its own even separate bubble, because there certainly weren't yet any references to Arrow or to the Flash, and so. In the few clips where they show parts of Superman's costume, it does seem to look similar to the costume that Cavill wears in the Superman movies. So I wonder if this is the first example of where they are going to tie those two. Maybe they learned something from Marvel and see that the fans really kind of dig that and like it. And we see that this is their first opportunity to sort of cross those over or make reference to. Regardless, the first episode left it to where it could go either way. I could see it like them completely avoiding it or eventually tying it in.
Very interesting.
Very cool. So the other big news that obviously premiered not this last Monday, but the Monday before that, was the Star Wars trailer. So I want to turn it over to you and your thoughts on, like, what if there was a camera watching you as you were. Have you seen those videos of the actors watching themselves appear in the trailer? They're fantastic. If you haven't seen those yet, go out and YouTube those things. Look up the actors' names and there's several of them where they're watching themselves appear in the trailer, and it is a joy to watch them enjoy it. What would it have been like in your living room when you watched that?
There would have been a lot of cussing because I watch my my ESPN, and I'm one of the few nerds. You too. Loves football. I will watch football. I love watching my Browns when they're actually good, so you can tell how long that's been. But I just love watching football. It doesn't matter who's playing. So I was watching the game regardless, but I know the jokes going around with the meme I saw was old Obi-Wan, Alec Guinness saying, I felt a disturbance in the force. Millions of nerds rose out and cried because they had to watch football. And I'm like, that's funny. That's really funny. But getting back to it, I watch my ESPN online, because I'm an online dude, and of course, because hundreds of millions of people are trying to watch this, the streaming was awful. It was cutting in and out and stopping. So I was cussing up a storm. I'm like, come on! I'm watching this stupid game because who was even playing? Was it Detroit? I can't remember who was playing, but it was not. It was
not an entertaining game. No,
it wasn't. So that was my first reaction. But then once I finally found it online, oh man. Lucasfilm, they are genius at marketing, just genius. And case in point, like they showed the actors, John Boyega watching the commercial or watching the trailer, genius. And they had obviously other ones, but it was like, oh my God, we're seeing so much more, and we're seeing more of a story versus like the teaser stuff. I think a lot of people were talking about, well, there was no Luke Skywalker. Oh my God, there's no Luke Skywalker. And the one rumor going online that I keep seeing is Luke Skywalker is Kylo Ren. It has to be, to be. And once he takes his mask off, then it's something happens, and then Adam Driver takes over, and it's like, whatever, guys, whatever. You guys are cracking me up. But I thought the trailer was perfect because it got us all talking like that. We just saw more of the character development. We saw Princess Leia. We probably saw Princess Leia and Han Solo together. That was very cool. I'm just stoked. There's a scene in particular that has my curiosity piqued because it looks like a main character might be dead. Don't know who it is. And it looks like somebody mourning. And that you just see sort of almost like the top of somebody just laying down. You can't really tell. And then somebody over them like sad. And I'm like, oh, my God, if that's somebody Like the other speculation was it's Han Solo because Harrison Ford's been trying to kill Han Solo since Empire Strikes Back. Like,
True.
oh my God, I'm going to be so mad. But I'm just stoked. The other bit of news was earlier. It was supposed to be in at the same time that they released the trailer, but they did it earlier, which is probably wise. They also released the tickets to buy for the movie for the premiere night. I know myself, I got 10 tickets, so I was pretty excited. But Fandango went down, Alamo Drafthouse went down, a lot of websites went down. They just could not handle the traffic. And I've seen on eBay, depending on what city you live in, tickets going from $100 to $300 for opening night, first showing. Yeah, it is.
That is crazy. I loved it. I thought what I think that they are doing so well, you talked about how well they're marketing it, is that they are going, and we've said this before, but they are saying to the fans of the first 3 films, this is the Star Wars that you've wanted. This is the Star Wars that harkens back to 83. I think them showing the actors being excited about being in the trailers is showing you that. It's saying, hey, this is Star Wars made by you guys, by nerds, by people who love these characters and love these films and love these stories, not just the special effects and the money grab and the stuff that are the criticisms of the prequels. And the performances look phenomenal. Like they're just short clips, but you're just like, gosh, this is better writing. It seems that the characters I'm already intrigued by the characters, whereas in the in the prequels you don't get it. That's my hugest criticism, is you don't get invested in the characters really at all. And part of this with them being the sequels is we are already invested in some of the characters because it's Han Solo, and we know and love Han Solo and are just excited to see him on screen again. I loved the special effects look phenomenal. Gosh.
I love how we're getting to see X-Wings and TIE fighters. And I understand we're in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, and it's not easy to do special effects, so it's all set in space. Yes. Now we're seeing these TIE fighters and these X-Wings battle like right on top, like right off the surface of a lake and right on land.
Yes.
It's like, oh man, this looks like really close combat, kind of like Battlefront, their video game. It's like, we're in it. This is awesome.
Yeah, the closest thing we had to that was in Empire Strikes Back, the battle on Hoth, and that was a pretty phenomenal. I mean, it was one of my favorite sequences in the entire trilogy, and I loved Empire Strikes Back anyway because of just the whole storyline. But that opening scene at Hoth was just a phenomenal scene. It was really cool to watch. So yes, I agree with you 100%. Did you notice that there wasn't like a huge epic lightsaber battle scene? You know what I mean? Like that sequence that's there's just this like sword fight that's this, and I sort of expected to see that, and so I'm sure that it's got to be in the film somewhere, but they're not. If it is, they're not spoiling it.
But that's one of the great things that the prequels set up, and I know people hate the prequels. Best I can say is get over it, because there are some great things that happen in the prequels. Namely, George Lucas admitted that when he made 3, 4, 5, and 6, the Jedi were dead, all but dead. So the fighting style was very old style sword play, 1 versus 1. There was slow, methodical. Darth Vader was really the only Jedi left, and he was old, more machine than man. So he wasn't going to fight the way he did when he was younger. When we saw the prequels, we saw some badass lightsaber battles that we had never seen before, and it had to do with this was the height of the Jedi, and they had all these different styles. So now we are. I actually had a friend when they was talking when Han Solo says all the stories are true. It's like, what is he referring to? And I'm like, the events of the prequels, where the last of the Jedi existed, was what do we say, about 60, 70 years ago? So the people that live now, like John Boyega's character and the kids in this movie, they have no clue that these Jedi existed the way they did. To them, they're a myth. they don't
even
know
Luke.
what it was. Because I mean, if you go back to the cantina in episode 4, and Luke is sort of just beginning to learn it, and Obi-Wan Kenobi pulls out the lightsaber, and everybody's like, oh my God, it's a Jedi. And people are freaked out because they just don't see them. Whereas, you know, 20 years before, 30 years before, however, they saw them all the time. So it's, I love that bit. I can't wait till they bring that back. And that's why it's called The Force Awakens. I'm pretty sure I got an idea what the storyline is, and I really am excited to see the Jedi come back.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Something to tack on to what you were saying about the lightsaber battles. Not only did that fit nicely within the story that he was telling, but also the fact that stage combat on film had come a long way.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you see the Matrix films and what they were able to do with the zip lines and things, and flipping people around and all that jazz. And then, you know, that in the Star Wars films as well. You know, that same concept and that idea, what they were able to do as performers on screen was new. And now we can see, you know, some of that, you know, being used as well in that behind the scenes trailer, the zip line, you know, people flying away from an explosion and stuff. It'll be interesting to see if there's an epic lightsaber battle. I hope that there is one, but I can understand if there isn't, because who's the other Jedi? It seems to me, and you were kind of hinting at it, and I know my theory has always been that, I'm sorry, what's the African American, or no, he's not American, is he?
Yeah, English.
Yeah,
John Boyega.
Yeah, Boyega. His character, I've always thought was, you know, my theory was that he was a stormtrooper who sort of defects from it. And it's this newest trailer seemed, at least in my mind, and maybe I'm just, you know, coming from a you know, that perception, it solidified that in you know, for me, that's what's going on with him, and he's cool, sort of
Han Solo. Yeah. Most people don't know this. Han Solo was in the Empire. He was a pilot in the Empire, and that's how he met Chewie. He saw how they were treating the Wookiees, and he thought that was pathetic, so he freed Chewbacca and a bunch of Wookiees, and they sailed off, and that's why he then became a smuggler, because he was now very much against the law, and the Empire wasn't thrilled with that.
He has no love for the Empire. Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. And then of course they're making the prequel of his story, which is pretty exciting. And I guess the people that are doing that are the same people that did the Lego movie, which I think is kind of interesting. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of humor in there. It'll be interesting to see how that comes out. But we need to move on and make sure that we cover some of the other things that we talked about today. So let's dive right into, I think we'll hold off on The Walking Dead, maybe talk about that another time.
Maybe we'll have some more answers next week to see if somebody died.
Yeah, it was a pretty big one this last week, and I don't see how he could not be dead when I watched the episode. But maybe we put that off for a couple more episodes and see what else is coming to the forefront there with that series. But let's jump into Halloween, because that's this Saturday, man. Any special plans? Tell us what your costumes are. Kids' costumes and the rest.
I'll be honest, I haven't really planned a costume for myself. I don't know why I chose this year to be super excited to pick up the discount costumes the day after. I don't know why that's my thing this year. Maybe because it's Star Wars and I've seen a lot of Star Wars. So maybe I'll get some Star Wars masks. I don't know. But
you just zip up your hoodie and that's your costume. I noticed, right?
The rest of the episode. How about that? So, as we all learned, Boba Fett survived, so that's good. But no, it's pretty cool. James is going as Link from The Legend of Zelda. He has gotten into that video game series hardcore. Super excited. For some reason, they don't sell the costume all in one. You had to buy the shield, the sword, and the outfit separately. I'm like, oh, God.
Yep, that's how they get you.
I know. So he got that. And then Madison, she had grand plans to be Lava Girl from Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Not a very contemporary movie, but she loves it, and it's a good movie. But then when we went in to go look for the Link stuff, she saw, I'll be honest, like the cheapest costume I've ever seen for a rock star. And I tried to convince her otherwise, tried to make her look at some of the other costumes. She was dead set on being a rock star. Hey. So she's going to be a rock star. We're going to punk her up a little more because it was just like a shirt and a skirt.
She could go gem. You could go the pink wig and the star on the face or something.
Well, ironically, she already has a couple Halloween parties already, and we got pink spray. And being blonde hair, it was very easy to do that. So people automatically thought that's what she was doing. So I was like, you know what? She has no idea who Jem is, but we'll take it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
How about you guys? I've seen a couple teasers.
Yeah, we're doing as you know, oftentimes the Applegate family does a thematic Halloween costumes where all of them tie together. We've done Adventure Time, we've done Star Wars, we've done superheroes. This year it is a Batman theme, which of course I'm very excited about. So my son is going as the Riddler, and he's doing the classic green jacket with the purple question marks and the derby hat and the cane. And so his costume is done. And Sabrina is going as Poison Ivy, and her costume is in the works. They both have their grandma, Nana, is working on them. And she will have, you know, the vines and sparkly green shoes and everything. And so she's excited, a leafy skirt and such. So she's very excited about that. She has her Merida wig for her red hair. So, and then of course Dad has to participate as well, just like every year. And so this year Dad is going as Two-Face, the Tommy Lee Jones, sorry, Tommy Lee Jones version, because I just thought that costume was more fun than I love the anime series Two-Face, but the costumes, you know, just black and white is kind of boring. So this one's a lot more fun. It's got a lot of animal print. And then the purple face, you know, makeup it's more fun than like gory, you know, whereas like the Dark Knight version, you know, it's pretty gory. And I wanted to go with fun instead of gory. So that's my costume. So we'll be Batman themed this year, which I'm excited about. The kids are too.
I'm sorry, maybe I missed it. Did you mention your wife?
No, she has opted out for many years now. Yeah, how about does your wife dress up for Halloween?
She's not going to do Catwoman for you.
She has done Catwoman before, and she makes a fantastic 1966 version of Catwoman. That is a classic. Yes, she is. She does, make for a good Catwoman. But she has opted out of the whole trick-or-treating, dressing up for Halloween for quite some time. I think the last time that she did it, she was Cleopatra when we did a whole Egypt thing, because my son's big into Egypt. So it's been a while since she's actually donned a costume. Not as much her thing. She likes to be the pilot, driving us around and handing out the candy and taking the pictures and that sort of thing. So she enjoys that side of it.
Well, that works.
Yeah, absolutely. So just thoughts Halloween wise, like what out there is there advice that we can give other nerdy dads or moms out there? Is there maybe any memories? Let's start with advice. Any advice? Like, what would you say if someone we've got some young dads out there, they're taking their kids out trick-or-treating for the first time. What's a recommendation that you would give that maybe they wouldn't normally get from somebody?
I'd say first and foremost, embrace it. Whatever your child is wearing and wants to wear, you do the same. You go to the nines, and even if you don't, just play it up with them. Don't hold back. Don't be embarrassed. I don't know, and it might be just we live in Vegas. There's a lot of people out here, very different cultures, and one of them seems to be a very religious culture, which if you're religious, that's fine, but a very religious culture that seems to promote the idea that celebrating Halloween is the devil's work. And that annoys the crap out of me, because Halloween is one of my favorite holidays, and I can't stand that actually is a thing. People think that. I go on the flip side. It's like, embrace it. You don't have to be like this gory Jason, Freddy, Army of Darkness, anything like that. Have fun of it. My kids love, James loves video games. Last year, God, I can't remember. Or he's been Astro Boy. He's been a ninja. He was Super Mario last year, Link this year. Nothing to do with horror. Nothing. Yeah. So just embrace it. Have fun with it. Don't let anybody say, "Oh my God, you're in your 30s or your late 20s or 40s or 50s. You shouldn't be acting like that." No, go to town. Have fun with it. That's probably my biggest suggestion. Have fun.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%, 100%. And you know, I guess my advice would be similar to that, in that, like, whatever your kid's into, like, celebrate that, you know, celebrate whatever that is. And we've talked about this before, you know, with, like, you know, bronies, or like if your kid's into this or into that, you know, don't and it's something that I've, like, there have been times where Kate has wanted to be a character, and I've been like, yeah, but nobody knows who that is. Like, and I think that that's important to sort of to consider, is like, okay, well, people don't know who you are. Is that going to upset your child? Is it going to make them feel bad that nobody knows who they are? Will that diminish their costume and their experience? And if that's the case, then yeah, maybe you know, you try to guide them in another direction. But, like, for example, my son was Doctor Strange last year, and I totally encouraged it. And I was like, but I told him, I'm like, now, you know, there's a ton of people out there that will have no idea who you are, and they're going to say that you're Dracula because you got this big old red cape and you've got the little goatee, and that's just what they're going to think you are. And he's like, oh yeah, that's cool, I don't care. Like, there'll be people who do know who I am, and that'll make it worth it. And in fact, that was exactly the case. Like, the people that knew that he was Doctor Strange, and the Cumberbatch rumor had just been, you know, flying around, you know, were really excited about his costume, and so he really enjoyed that. Whereas you know, the people that thought he was Dracula, he just let that roll right off his back. And so it was nice to see that was the case with him.
That's awesome. We had similar experience with Astro Boy. And I barely knew who Astro Boy was. It was a cartoon on Netflix at the time. I mean, it's old. People have an idea, but most people had no clue who Astro Boy was. But James, he was 5. He loved just launching into the whole spiel of who Astro Boy was almost every time, every door. I'm like,
Sure.
wow, you like to talk.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And that's part of what can be cool about Halloween is, one, it, you know, you get to play pretend and get all dressed up, and you know me, I'm a theater guy, so I love doing that. But also sort of the building of self-confidence, like that like you know, sort of pride in having fun and going up to complete strangers and, like, talking to them and getting candy and that whole, like, community celebration, which I think has gone by the wayside because we're in this culture now that everybody's so afraid of, you know, oh, creepers, and it's sad that that's the case. And, you know, there are real incidents where you do have to be careful, you do have to check your kids' candy, you do have to, you know, watch out, and the rest. But somewhere in all of that, we've lost the idea that it's about the neighborhood and the community and celebrating kids and having fun.
Yeah, I agree. Totally.
Cool. So any Halloween memories that you might have that like a costume or anything like that we can share real quickly before we end this episode?
I think it goes back to just in general, being from Northeast Ohio, and you'd get the awesome costume, you'd love it. And granted, it was probably the cheap, crappy thing you bought in the store, but it was something you really wanted. And then you're going out and it's all covered up in a coat and a jacket because it's freaking freezing.
Snowing.
Exactly. And I know you still have that because you're still in Michigan.
Yeah.
But one of the glorious things being out here, you know, I think it was 70 degrees out. And hopefully it'll stay warm up until Saturday so that we can experience actually seeing a costume.
Right.
But yeah, just being able to go out, and usually it was a beautiful fall day, and you'd be hanging with your friends. I know when I was younger, my mom made my costumes, and for some reason I've always wanted the store-bought crappy ones, but she made me a really awesome Batman one. And this is Batman, like, you know, from the 60s. I had like the gray tights and
that's awesome.
Looked like a big old goofball, but it was cool. And Mom did a great job with it. Also, when I was real little, I was the devil. And what was cool, and I think we talked about this before, it was a devil costume that I wore, my sisters wore, and then it came back, my son wore, and my daughter wore. So it's been through the gamut. It was really cool. But yeah, I think just like you said, there's always a sense of community, whether it was being really little and going out with my parents and probably another group of parents and friends, to, you know, early teens where you'd go out with your friends and yeah, it caused a little hell, but really nothing.
Harmless stuff, yeah.
Exactly. And having fun with it and just that sense of community. And I'm excited because we moved into a new neighborhood last year, right before Halloween, and we got a glimpse of it, got to see our new neighborhood in that aspect, and it was fabulous. Everybody was great. There's a big block party. It was awesome. So now that we know, and we know the neighbors a little better, really excited to see it done up. A lot of the houses are decorated, and it's cool to see the way it goes, because there's some with the headstones and making it look, like the creepy horror film, and there's others that are like the pumpkin patch and all that, like we have. So it's cool. I just love Halloween, so I'm excited to make these new memories. How about you?
Yeah, I think I just reiterate some of the same things. I think that the best costumes are the homemade ones, whether it's a garbage bag filled with balloons that, you made yourself into a gumball machine that it was, took all of like 20 minutes, or it's, something that, grandma or mom like worked for weeks and weeks on. There's something about that creativity of putting something into that, that is pretty remarkable. But the store-bought ones nowadays are certainly a heck of a lot better than they were in our day, when they were like those plastic things and they just like they fall apart before you got home. Yeah. Yeah. But I it was, for me, it was always the ability to that playing pretend. And I think it goes back to my theatrical nature, that I love acting and I love performing, and putting on that costume was just that extra level of being able to be something else that you enjoyed and dreamed about. And it was cool to be able to do that, and other people to enjoy doing that as well. And it wasn't weird or silly or immature or anything like that. It was cool. It was cool. Yeah. So and you can even do it as adults, and I think that's pretty neat. So
that's very cool. I do want to give a real quick plug out to Jason Edmiston. He will be releasing his Halloween Prince, Michael Myers Halloween, this Friday at 3:00. Now that I think about it, he's Canadian, so I'm not exactly sure where he is. But I'm going to say 3:00 Eastern time, just to be
probably.
But they are one of the best prints I've seen that represent that movie, so you might want to check it out. And they're from him directly. He has a small amount of the regulars and a lot of the variants. Those were released at MondoCon. So that's a great way to get Halloween spirit to show that one. But other than that, any other Halloween memories?
No, I think that does it. I mean, obviously the stuff with the kids, it's kind of like, I don't know about you, but I can think back of like by each year, like, okay, we were this on this year, we were that on that year. And it's kind of cool to be able to mark the years by like what characters you portrayed. It's pretty fun. So.
And it's funny, I realized how much of a nerd I was when I was Batman, Captain America. And I'm like, and I was like 6, 7, 8. And I'm like, holy cow, I was awesome. Yeah.
That's right. You are awesome still. So, well, we hope everybody out there has an awesome Halloween and a safe Halloween, of course. Make sure that you're wearing the stuff that you need to wear to stay safe, and that you're taking care of everything that you need to take care of. But
stay in groups.
That's right. Stay in groups. Exactly. Stay in groups. Be well lit. Have the glow in the dark light up stuff, and check that candy when you get home and the rest. But
parents, take your candy tax. Get your candy tax.
That's true. 10%. So that's a good point as well. But we do hope you have a safe and fun Halloween, and we wish you guys all the best. But go ahead and let's wrap this baby up.
So that's another week. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, nerdlocker.com, everything else. Jason, take us out.
Have a nerdy week, everybody.